Thanks, Lou. Joining me today at the table, we have Justine Fox-Young, a Republican former state legislator, Justice Ed Chavez, chair of the Citizen Redistricting Committee and a former Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court, and Dede Feldman, who served as a Democrat in the state Senate and now works with Common Cause New Mexico, a nonpartisan group that advocated for the new congressional map. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Nash.
So let's take a step back to October. That's when State District Judge Fred Van Solen ruled that the state's congressional map is constitutional, while also noting that Democrats did intentionally try to dilute the votes of Republicans when they adjusted the boundaries of Congressional District 2. For those who haven't memorized the map, that would be the Southern District. Starting there, Justine, how can both of those findings exist in the same breath, legally speaking?
Well, without boring everybody to tears on the law, I think since in the last couple years, it's become very clear that it's hard to bring a partisan gerrymandering claim. And the Republican Party had really good evidence of intent, percipient evidence. I mean, they had statements that were made to the press early on by Speaker Egoff. They had, Mimi Stewart's statements across the board, text messages, other, conversations, statements made between the Senate Democrat leadership and representatives of the other members of Congress that made it very clear that they wanted to sort of fatten up the numbers for that district and take it, up to, what is it now, a 53, so a 6-point swing. There was sort of nobody, I think, even denied that. I mean, the evidence was clear. The question is, can that be overcome? Maybe we'll get into the standard, but what really is an entrenched incumbent position? What does that mean? I think the judge had hard facts on the last election, difficult facts to overcome because it was such a tight election, because it was within 1%. I think we'll see how blue that district really is, 1 or 2 cycles down the road. But right. By then, this is all kind of water under the bridge. So it's a really hard claim to make for lots of kind of mundane legal reasons. Maybe not mundane to Justice Chavez, he's the real brains of the operation. But it's a hard claim for any lawyer to make.
Right. And when you talk about the last election in 2022, that was the first election that this map was used, that saw Representative Gabe Vasquez oust Yvette Herrell, the then incumbent, by less than 1%, 0.7%.
Yeah, and I'll say, and no comment on, I don't know Mr. Vasquez, but just as a political matter, when you look at appeal and sort of what kind of candidate is going to appeal in that district, he is not a candidate you would expect to pick up swing voters. He is a candidate who I think even Brian Sanderoff said at the trial, he's going to have problems running on his legal record, on his voting record down the line, just because he is definitely far left of center in that district. I think had Joe Cervantes or some other candidate with a different complexion run, might have won by 10,000 votes.
Meaning more moderate.
Yes, much. Yeah, it wouldn't take much. I mean, he's pretty far out there for the district, and so given that context, this was also a pretty good Republican year that tightened it up. So I think that might be a little bit misleading. I think was it a 0.7% difference in the race? I think it's a misleading split. You really will see that it's quite a blue district, and it's going to be extremely hard to win. Is it impossible? Probably not. Look, right. I ran as an incumbent in 2008 in a little legislative district in town that was maybe a 52-48, and I lost. It was a huge year for Obama, and it was a little bit unpredictable what happened. So, is it winnable? With the right candidates in the right year, can a Republican win that seat? Maybe, right, but it's such a reach.
You're touching on the idea of how entrenched are the Democrats in that district now, right? Which was a big question in the case. Terms like entrenchment, terms like egregious gerrymandering, which I believe you used, that came up a lot. And really what those are about is how hard is it for the other party to win that race? Yeah. Justice Chavez, where do these terms even come from? And also, how does a judge assess them?
Well, actually, that's the point of the United States Supreme Court opinion in Russo, is they basically said, listen, partisan gerrymandering can be constitutional. The question is, how much is too much?
Right.
And they make the point that there's no real manageable standard, that there are all these intangibles that Justine was talking about. Can the candidate raise money? What's their personality? Are they campaigning for the job? None of this can be measured. And the other thing about New Mexico, frankly, is when it's a presidential election, the voters turn out. When it's a gubernatorial election, they don't. Historically, it's been like 100,000 drop-off. Last go-around, there were 230,000 fewer voters that voted. So there just wasn't much enthusiasm, I guess, as compared to prior years. So, but how do courts measure that? We do that, in my mind, all the time, even with civil litigation, the reasonable person standard. You know, we leave that to the fact finder to decide. What shocks the conscience of the court? We deal with those sorts of issues all the time. And so in my mind, the egregiousness standard is going to be in the eye of the beholder. And frankly, when the district court judge decided that this was not egregious, I think the Supreme Court deferring, looking at the case, was there substantial evidence to support the judge's findings? And if the judge concludes, even with all of those findings,
Right.
this was not egregious, they're going to defer to the trial judge.
And the trial judge really was focused on the result of that 2022 election and how close it was to say, no, this is an entrenchment. Entrenchment would be if the Republicans really have no chance of winning a race, where the map decides the election, basically predetermines the results of the election, and he ruled, no, that's not the case.
Which is not unreasonable. I mean, it's the data point he had, and it's a reasonable place to go look. But there is all this other context that political consultants and other local folks can unpack. I think it's an open question whether judges are best suited to do that, whether we want our courts doing that.
This conversation so far, it's a little wonky. I mean, I think even just the word redistricting it can have some people tuning out. So, Dee Dee, can you speak a little bit to why New Mexicans should care at all that there is a new map, or how it was made?
Well, I think the basis of everything is that each person's vote should count equally. And that's why we have the standards that we do have that, Justice Chavez dealt with in the Citizens Commission or Committee, that, the district should be proportionally the same population, and they shouldn't vary that much. And that another consideration is also the ethnic makeup. We haven't talked about that, but the ethnic makeup, partisan makeup is one thing, ethnic makeup is another thing. There are a lot of balances that both the legislature and the courts have to deal with, the rural-urban balance as well. That's something that...
But as people are listening to kind of these factors that matter in redistricting, how does it affect them? How does it affect their life, their everyday life, if they're saying, that's too in the weeds for me?
The ability to choose a candidate of their choice, so that when they go into the polling place, the decision has not already been made because of the preponderance of one party in that district. That's why, there has to be some kind of a balance.
Well, and I would say the ability to get your government to work for you on the back end, right? You can elect them, and then what are they going to do? I mean, Chavez County now is split. There are two different members of Congress that represent Chavez County. Roswell split two ways now with the new map. That will affect accountability of those legislators.
One representative in your area.
Yeah, you have a big funding project. They've got, I mean, it's hard to even describe the implications, but that's why we talk about communities of interest. That's why we talk about geographic. You want the best government possible.
I think it's a
what
good
does that
point.
mean?
I do want to back up a little bit from before this map hit the courts. Justice Chavez, the state created the Citizen Redistricting Committee in 2021, which you chaired.
Yes.
after decades of courts drawing the maps for the state, this new map was supposed to be the result of a fairer, more transparent process. Why did it end up in court anyway?
Because ultimately the legislature did not adopt any of the maps that the CRC worked with, and frankly, no Republican voted for that map. And so when you have this polarization, that litigation is going to be the result.
Can you explain that, why no Republicans supported any of the product of the commission? When it looks like they would have been, at least all of them would have been at least marginally better for the Republican Party than what came out.
Yeah, actually on the House side, I know that there was disagreement and there were efforts to change the maps that the CRC proposed, but ultimately the House adopted wholesale one of the maps that was recommended by the CRC. That didn't happen in the Senate. They were upset because we paired incumbents and they wanted to unpair the incumbents. That's entrenchment.
That's job one of any redistricting plan in the legislature is incumbent protection.
And then on the congressional side, they chose one map that was submitted by the Center for Civic Policy. That one was approved by us 4-3, as I recall. And so they used that as a starting point. And I know there were exchange of emails and whatnot. So I think that the Republicans never really had an opportunity to vote on any of those maps. At least that's the way I understand it.
Thank you all for the discussion. I appreciate it. We're going to take just a quick break to look ahead in the show, but we are going to be right back here in less than a minute to talk about what the Supreme Court's decision means for the 2024 election.